We drive sometimes from Del Rey. I live in Del Rey to Winn-Dixie because they open 9 o'clock, everything.
Oh,
is
really?
closed.
Oh, really?
So they open till 11.
Ah.
So
Wow.
Testing the speaker.
Oh.
I should have brought my phone, my mail.
No, this
was
isn't
not
right.
working.
This is good enough.
No.
Okay.
You okay? No.
Angela, can you just a big favor of you? Can you just run me 10 copies of this? Okay, thank
The
you.
purple lady.
Magenta.
Oh, you got magenta.
That's right.
Purple lady.
I appreciate everything. All right, you know what we're going to do today?
What are we going to do?
Okay, so I just had to run off some more maps of the Pale Salad so that you can have it handy and reference some of the towns we are looking for. We were in the middle of doing this one. The 19th century Tower Masters, the one that began with the Malvern. I'm not gonna, we did the Malvern already.
19th century,
Right.
yes,
Yeah,
right.
all right, so I want to finish that one up.
okay.
Then I have, do I have actually, you have to bring your sheets with you,
Yeah.
because otherwise I have to bother Andrea all the time.
Okay, no, if you don't have it,
So-
because they like to give me consideration.
Oh,
That's okay.
well, we're going to be now doing this, if you could just give this out.
Yeah.
This will
This is
be,
it.
we're not ready, I want to finish the first
the next
thing, but then we'll do
one.
that. Oh,
Thank you.
super, and here are some maps. So
Oh,
now you can
okay.
find some of
Is
these
that what I have?
towns. Yeah.
No, I don't have. You would, yeah. Open the wood.
By the way, we're supposed to vote for candidates for the rabbi,
Oh,
both declined.
you're kidding, they don't want
They're
to.
two Probers, and they both declined.
Oh, my gosh. Where were they coming from?
One from Muncie.
Yeah,
So who's declining?
Thank you very
she
much.
said both of them.
Both of
did.
them, both of them.
Thank you very much.
So now you have to start all over again.
That's
So
right.
what, who are you voting for?
There's nothing to vote for now.
No, Don,
She
is
said
for the
voting
board.
was till
It is
Sunday.
the board.
Oh, that's the board. Oh, that's why
Board.
she's sitting there. Okay.
Both of
For
them declined?
president, both
Yeah.
declined.
Well,
All right, this is the new one. Wait, you know what? This is-
good.
Those-
Wanna put these on back?
Like, committee,
the maps you can put
search
here.
committee,
Yes,
is a lot of people.
yes.
These schools are the best for it.
That's
This
wonderful.
is
You
mine.
have to take decline.
And she can
The
fast
both
run
rabbis
off.
decline.
I know, tell her five more times.
Oh, you would too.
So I should-
No,
But you have to do that to Andrea.
Yeah.
And she'll do it for me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to wait till the sheets come back. They're gonna be right off and I'll be ready. And then we'll begin.
That's what he said. So now you're only voting for the
I went
board.
to verify with the office.
Since when is this? I didn't know.
Last night.
Last night?
Am I in your seat? I don't. No, we're
Oh,
going.
okay.
Ah.
Shalom.
You know how many times
worth a
the
lot.
rabbi in our school has announced, nobody has to say it. But there are always those people who want their particular, see, I think I told you this, I was once in Broyers, Washington Heights.
Yeah.
I come in places mostly empty. I take a seat.
Okay.
Sure enough,
You're sitting in someone's.
some lady comes over, yours, well, I can't, some people very good at accents, but German lady comes in. At one time, I was actually in the Spanish Portuguese, Israel, like
Yeah.
where Shalom used to be. And also it's pretty empty. I sit down. Now, nobody said anything to me except as the davening had continued, there was a lady sitting like maybe 2 seats over me. I just want you to know that is not.
That's a Broyer.
And she was a German Jew.
That's
Right.
what they was in Rome.
Yeah, Brian says, there's nobody of 5 ladies in the whole place, but I'm in your
That's
seat.
the name of the-
But that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Everything has to be out.
Last Shabbos, you couldn't even get one seat.
Oh, my
They
God.
were standing up, they brought in chairs.
What, here you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
because the rabbi was speaking.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, what, the
October.
guest? Rabbi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they both declined.
I wonder
They searched
why.
and searched.
They said family reasons.
I don't know. I mean, who wouldn't want somebody to be living down here in Florida, you know? All my kids love to come visit. So, all right, I'm sorry, I just have to pause until she runs off those few sheets and because I gave her my copy.
I
So,
believe it. They searched so hard. And I don't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
and does the apartment come with it or no?
No.
That person pays
They
for
have
it
to
separately. Okay,
It used to
yeah.
at one time.
All right, you know, I said, let me just begin at least talking, so, you know, I don't wanna, keep everybody waiting, and also I think she already has the connection made. So again, so you have your maps now, the Pale of Settlement, okay? I had given them out, but it was more towards the beginning of my lecture series. Oh, super, I appreciate that.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
It's the original behind it, yeah.
Oh, okay, right, 'cause
Let's see if
I
I
like
can
this,
find my
I like the
mother's pen.
separate sheets, okay. So who needs the one from today, the one that says 19th century Toller Masters? Who asked for it? Where'd she go? That's in your one. Yeah. All right, so this is. All right. So again, we really did the album, but.
I don't think I found my mother's town.
I found,
Did you find the town?
well, my Zeta came from Suval. This is on the silver
here?
side, my mother's side. And I remember my mother always saying that it was near Germany. But when I had looked at a regular map of Poland, Suval was not. It was, that I couldn't understand why she said it was near Germany. But now when you look at the map of the Pale of Settlement, because my Zeta came like in 1895 or something. Sure enough.
What are you looking
Oh, I'm
for?
looking
What
at
town?
a different map. I think I had another map of the Pale at home. And it was right near like that East Prussia area. That's where Suwalk is.
You found it?
Yeah, it's not on this map.
Oh, it's
so
not on this
sorry.
map.
I
I
have
don't
another
see it.
map at home. But again, it's Western Poland near Prussia, which becomes later, Germany, but that won't happen. At this point, it's just
Oh, Prussia.
called East Prussia, all right?
The yellow stuff was a big town.
Yes. Again, when,
Knox was a big town.
well, I think most of the towns that are listed here were considered
Big town.
large Jewish communities, right? So sometimes if I mention a town, you'll know,
My
where to
father's
look.
town.
Oh, I know that the Suwalk I'm talking about, it was here, it was like the northern part of coastal Lithuania, that's why the people from there are called Litvaks, even though it's not officially Lithuania, but, they were all called,
I
Litvaks.
think they were this one.
Yes, okay, so we had started off last week, we were talking about the Malvin, who is a really brilliant commentator, and I use him a lot when I teach that Novi class, Yahoo. And he's particularly known, right, for his commentary on the Nevi'im. At least now, in Sefer Yahoo. Big on a dick joke we mentioned before, he likes to really analyze why does a certain word mean over another, and really brilliant insights. Whenever you study anything in Tanakh, so your first classic interpreter is always Rashi, by the main commentator, and everybody branches off from Rashi. So in the Chumash, you would then maybe study the Ramban. But the Ramban does not have a commentary on Nach, only on Chumash. So other famous ones would be Radak. Radak was Rabbi David Pilpi in Provence, that's southern France. Sometimes it's Isabel Bog, that's a Spanish Jew. But when it comes to Esforno, but he's Italian, I mean, you see, like, they're coming from all different countries. I think it's quite fascinating. And the Malvin is really relatively recent, right? It's 19th century. I forgot of Barbanel. I also love the Barbanel, right? So, and I was associated with Barbara now 1492 because he was originally a Portuguese Jew, then he moved to Spain, under the government, he was expelled, I mean, he was not willing obviously to convert. And then he spent his last few years of his life actually in Italy. So, I know people often associate him with Ferdinand and Isabella, but I think that he was actually born in Portugal, raised in Portugal, with many, many years in Portugal, till he went to Spain. Okay, so now just give me a little overview of some of the major commentaries that we have on, Tanakh. I mean, there are other people, who cover the Kliyaka or Akaya, but it showed you, or I highlighted some of those that I tend to use, more in my work. So we can turn over to that second page because we did finish the Malbim. And I'm going to deal with somebody called Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi Mecklenburg. All right, and you're on page 2.
Oh, yeah, we have.
Page 2.
I haven't done it last time. Yeah.
Good, excellent. All right. Does anybody need a extra copy?
I'm not in century for that.
Right, just one here. You need one, somebody else? One more, okay. Okay. If you could possibly, but just buy yourselves a folder, and save the things so you don't lose them constantly, and then afterwards, if you ever want to review it, you have everything in chronological order, all right? I had to go yesterday for another one of my lovely iron infusions. I don't see that it's bringing up my numbers so much, whatever, but it sort of messes up, wherever they put the needle in. Okay, but I just want to show you, I got some of my information. I mean, some of the more famous people you'll see absorb in a regular Jewish history book. And I certainly use Rabbi Wine's, history of the Jews that he had written. But this one, I must have been browsing once when I was in New York, and I don't know. And I noticed this, it's called The Lights of the Exile, the Later Achronim. So, I don't know, what are they going to call the people now? The later. I mean, they're going to come up with another way to describe them.
The most latest.
Right. So, and then I supplement sometimes I Google, Dr. Google, and it's usually Wikipedia. Sometimes it's from a Jewish source, and then I just like to always corroborate dates. I mean, if they're repeated in 2 places, then I feel like that's accurate. But whereas one place might list the names of towns, there will tell you what countries they were in. So I just get a more of a composite, picture of what's going on. So I haven't been in New York for a little while. So the next time I go, I usually go to Iceland.
Yeah, my son orders from there already.
Yeah, that's my best 13th Avenue. Or online. No, not certain. I don't go to Borough Park. I do. The one in Borough Park, it's got like really more right wing. I go to the one on it's near my daughter. It's in Flatbush. What's that street called?
Coney Island.
No, it's Coney Island.
It's Coney Island Avenue. That's the name. Okay, right. And that's where.
There's McCore and Eichler, one of them. Well, both of them have sell a lot of.
Where is McCall?
McCore's couple of blocks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was over there. I just go to Eichler's. That's
Yeah.
really
They're
I
two.
recognize it. Yeah, and they'll have more books like this or the other one is definitely the Borough Park store. I have been in there, but the type of books used, so.
We're not Brooklyn, I.
They don't. Well, I'm usually not. Sometimes I'll go someplace and my husband and I live in Rochester, New York, which is upstate New York. So when people would make comments about New York, I said, I'm not New York City. I said, I'm the upstate, the real upstate, not like Westchester. People think they live in Westchester, they're in upstate. I find it very humorous. Anyways, so let's talk about this next individual who I have here. I'm just gonna look because I take notes on the note in my book here, so I just wanted to take a look. All right, you see his date, 1785 to 1865. And he is known, actually, he's famous, where it says Haketev HaKabbalah, and he's known like by his Haketev HaKabbalah. It's Ketev HaKabbalah.
There was another word.
Right, I don't know, this is how this particular thing is written here. And let me just read a little bit about his background and about his sefer that he's so he's born in Lissa. We had another Rav at the end of the 18th century, also came from Lissa. And it's actually in Posen, and it's not the town of Posen, and that's western. What did I write here? Oh, it's a part of Germany. Today, Posen is Poland. It's in Poland. But remember, you're looking at that map of the PL. So you'll see, I don't know, do they have Posen in here? But it's whatever. It's the part that's near where it says East Prussia. That's where Posen is. Okay, as they say today, it's Poland. And it had been Poland. It was divided in the 1700s. He first went into business. That's interesting. But after several financial reverses, he decided to turn to Rabbanis. Now, why we turned to Rabbanis? Activities didn't pan out. So wait, you gotta make money being a Rav? I don't know. In any case, whatever, he just gave up and he decided, and he obviously was a scholar. I mean, he was a brilliant person. From 1831 to 1865, it's a pretty long span. He served as a rabbi of Königsberg, which is in East Prussia. I don't know if Königsberg is on this. I have to get you another map. I did have two at home, but I had just bought this one. I'll ask Andrew to run off the other one. He was a strong defender of traditional Judaism, very strong Orthodox Rav. And he strongly opposed the reform. Right, as you'll see, a lot of these Rabbanim, because this is when the reform is making inroads, trying to convince people to change over to a very more modern way of dominating how their synagogues were set up. Or at that point, they start calling them temples. But obviously, he was a defender of Orthodox Judaism and opposed everything. This would have been also would impose a Haskalah as a result. He's best known as the author of Haketev HaKabbalah, where he counteracted the Haskalah influence by manifesting the unity between the oral and written laws. And the Malvin does the same thing, because in the reform ideology, they're saying they're going back to the source, just the written Torah and Moshe, from Hashem, but they're discounting the oral law. They call it rabbinic law. As if the rabbis invented the things. What he's trying to prove, no. At the same time, when Moshe came down from Har Sinai, the written law, he in turn, that's why he was teaching it. Because he's teaching them the oral law in conjunction. But the oral law doesn't come to be written down for a long time, not until the Mishnaic period, and it's concluded around the year 200. That's probably from Yehuda HaNassi. So that's the first time that they started writing the oral law in written form. And then the Gemara is an elaboration of what's in the Mishnah. So if you ever look at a page of the Gemara, there's like a little small paragraph usually from the Mishnah, and a huge, discussion about the halacha as the rabbis from the Talmudic era. And so that was compiled around the year 450. So 200 Mishnah, year around 450, that's the Gemara. So the two together are called the Talmud. And then all the other people that, who come at a later date, they're all, interpreting what's in the Gemara and then elaborating upon it, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So again, what's that? Yeah, oh, interesting. Okay. I guess, yeah, I guess it took it over. Interesting. Well, it says if it's in East Prussia, that it makes sense. Because they took it, it becomes East Germany, yeah. Stress the symbiotic, the close relationship between the Peshat and the Drash.
Explain that, please.
What's that?
Could you explain what those two mean?
The Peshat and Drash. So Peshat means a simple interpretation of the word. So you always start off with that. Let's say you open up a Chumash, and it's just driving something like Yaakov. So you interpret it as an exact translation of the words. That's Peshat. The Drashes, you look into it and it's an elaboration, like what's the hidden meaning? What is it really referring to? That's a drash. So like Medrash, that's what Medrash is. Medrash are actually a compilation of stories to sort of explain to, fancy words, elucidate to build upon the basic words, but to explain, sort of what's going on, what's the background, for everything. And if you're a scholar, if you're a student, of Tanakh, you start off again, it's called Pardes, so you do the Peshat. What's the ratio? Remez, a hint. So that was, where else are these words to be found? So you can compare, the two places and then get to a proper interpretation. One is this word being used here and in addition elsewhere. Pardes, Dal is Drash, the Drasha, and the Samach means shows. So that's more like Kabbalah, going into, that sort of an interpretation. Okay, he meshed the Torah between its literal interpretation. Again, that's the shot, that's the literal, right? And its hidden meaning, and that would be Drash. Okay, to try. That's what I use right figure. Like you want to dig it out. What is it really referring to? What is it? What is this phrase in Hebrew? And then to explain, in the proper context, what is it? The person, what is the sentence? Really saying. Additionally, throughout his career, he repeatedly stood firm in a position to the introduction of changes or innovations to Judaism. Again, so he was opposed to the reform movement and all the changes they made in liturgy, the davening, and the introduction of they had a choir and an organ. They were really pretty radical. The earlier reform Jews, and they obviously looked askance at Orthodox Jews, being very backward and not into the modern age. And obviously, they also represented the forefront of the Haskalah movement. And the Haskalah, enlightenment, but it also, that one should have secular studies and, dress like everybody else, speak the language of the country in which you're living, not just Yiddish, which always was downplayed. It only became, so to speak, a respected language later in the 19th and early 20th century. When some, like Shalom Aleichem, they would write actually in Yiddish, and then it became a very accepted, and a higher level language than before. Oh, it's the language of the whole, store. Yeah, marketplace, with one another language between Jews. It wasn't understood by the general population. And the Jews themselves, often did not, they used a minimum of their local language, like they might have known some Polish, some Russian, but it was just to interact with business purposes, with people who among whom they would have done business. But they didn't speak it fluently. And as I say, their main language is Yiddish, was Yiddish. I feel badly for myself that my parents were American, so they spoke English in that home completely, and they would only speak Yiddish if they didn't want us to understand something. Okay, because they did grow up at homes, where Yiddish was being used, but like I never really learned Yiddish. I mean, I know some phrases here and there. I mean, I think we're part of American. If you open up the dictionary, there's certain terms there, like a shlemiel, shlemazel. They're not even over like in the English language, but they actually, of course, are Yiddish words. Okay, so we did him. We did the Ketzer Kabbalah. Again, that's how he's known. You probably wouldn't hear so much the name, Rob Lakotsky Mecklenburg, but you would have heard of his Sefer, right? Ketzer Kabbalah. Okay, let's do this next individual. His name is Rabbi Yisrael Lipschitz. And his dates are 1782 to 1860. All right. So you see that they're covering, they spanning that same age. I mean, even the Malbim, he's not born until the early 1800s, but he goes all the way up into 1879. So he lives even beyond these Rabbanim. Okay, so one of the most illustrious Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Again, Eiger can be spelled by E-G-E-R, as I have it here, but other sources it's E-I-G-E-R. And I personally favor E-I-G-E-R. And he was from the prior generation, so I have his dates there, so just to compare, 1761 to 1837. Again, so he was a student of his. And this is his full name, Rabbi Yisrael Ben Gedalia Lipschitz. He was a German, again, so he's coming from, I mean, today it might be, it's a more Poland, considered, but then it was certain, because they were right next to Prussia, so they were considered German Jews, okay. He served as Rav in numerous communities, such as Bronski, Bethel, and he's, and dancing, and hopefully you all heard of dancing, it like sticks up, and I believe it's a port. It's a port, right? Yes, yeah. So I guess it had a fairly sizable Jewish community. This is just to describe the type of individual he was. He would often fast for 3 days and 3 nights consecutively. Oh my God. Studying Torah diligently while wearing his tallis and tefillin. And we know this was his son, shared this with other people. In addition to his pursuit of Torah, he was actively involved in Gemilas Chasadim, often going, he was just this kind, good person, often going from door to door, collecting funds for widows and orphans and for dowries for poor brides. So he was actually a communal Rav, not just some Rav sitting where his farm, but he interacted with people in his town. He also wrote a Sefer Torah with his own hand, which is actually instructing us in the Torah, if one is able to provide their own Sefer Torah, while also completing studying the entire Shas. I mean, and that's quite an accomplishment. I say I'm tempted to do the documentary, but half the time I can't understand what I'm talking about. So, but I have plugged away, right? That's Torah. The two of us were doing it. Okay. He then made a double siyum, celebrating his simultaneous completion of both the written and the oral laws. So obviously the oral law is the Gemara, right? He studied all of Shas, but then he wrote his own Torah scroll. So that's what the combination of the written law and the oral law. Okay, this is the Sefer that he's known for. His magnum opus, that is a major accomplishment, was Tiferet Yisrael, which is a commentary to the Mishnah. So the Mishnah, obviously, that's the oral law, okay? It has become an indispensable guide for all students of the Mishnah. In his elaborate commentary, he provides a detailed clarification of virtually every phase of the Mishnah. So I suppose, some people do something called daf. What is it called? Daf Mishnah? What are they called? Mishnah Yomi, okay. So I guess perhaps they must be using like this Tiferes Yisrael, like one of the commentators.
A variety of comments.
Yes, I'm sure it's more than one, I'm saying this would have been one of those that would be included. And he provides a detailed clarification of virtually every phase of the Mishnah, while also resolving many difficult questions raised by many Achronim. And that, from generation to generation, they try to clarify, to understand, to make it applicable to modern day situations. And that's what brought him today do, right? And then those few who are brilliant enough, to be post-skilled, to be able to properly interpret and say, well, this is what the halacha should be now and not then in each. Okay? And he would have looked at, obviously, at the writings of the Vilna Gaon and this Rabbi Akiva Eiger. In many places in his commentary, he sets forth a concise commentary of the major halachas contained therein. Most significant are his elaborate introductions to three sections of the Mishnah. And his introduction to Sefer Moed, and that would include holidays and Shabbos. He provides a clear summary of the laws of Shabbos. So, you can take that and then write a halacha work about practical applications, what's a halacha for certain things on Shabbos, right? And also on Eruvim, that's, putting, with the stamps and the wires, connecting everything. My son Shalom in London now, it's a long process. It's not, because you also have to get governmental permission, to put up the lechy. They'll have to put up the board and then the wire is attached and then they go around. Or sometimes it goes here behind a person's yard, as I say, it takes quite a while to get total approval. You also wrote about the clothing of the Kohanim and the interpolation of how figuring out the Jewish calendar. Is it going to be 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, 1 day of Rosh Hashanah? Is the gorgeous moon into the rain? Oh, yeah, so beautiful. So now you're at the 15th, Tu B'Shvat. Okay. I love it also when there's a new moon. He wrote similarly comprehensive introductions to both the order of Kodshim. What the Kodshim has to do with sacrifice. What? Yeah. Right. Okay. And the order of Taharos, purification. In addition, Rabbi Lishitz also wrote a brief commentary to the Mishnah called Zera Yisrael. But as I say, he mostly known for the previous one, the Tiferes Yisrael, which is a commentary. So I don't know, maybe the Zera Yisrael was more like this is a brief commentary. And he extrapolated certain key things, and then it's larger work that can produce this shorter work. I mean, even when you think about the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote that in the 1500s. His idea was to put together in one source all the halachas. But then people wrote commentaries in the Shulchan Aruchs and commentaries on the commentaries. The short this is a lot, right? Over time. All right, let's do now this other individual called Maharatz Chayot, and he's from 1805 to 1856. So really didn't live very long. No. It says one of the most illustrious Gaonim of the early 19th century was Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Chayot. And I have to tell you what I think I mentioned. When I was a little girl, the Jewish press has been around for a long time. So my father took the weekend, and then there are all these stories, and they're called Tales of the Gaonim. but they were like a mishmash. They didn't really tell you where and when they lived. And then I learned there actually is an actual era of Rabbanim that are called Geonim. They're the ones who come after the Gemara, but let's say from 600 to the year 1000, and they're Babylonian Jews. But Gaon, the word Gaon can also mean any brilliant person. You know, you know, if even somebody like a really brilliant student, oh, he's a real Gaon. But as a child, you know, I was getting, or especially as I started learning that there actually were Rabbanim referred to as the Geonim from a particular time period. So it just was confusing in my mind. Also, when you're a child, you don't really understand history. Right? I mean, I think I only started comprehending it more in high school. Actually, so I majored in history because I just fell.
You majored in what?
History. Yeah, I just like I opened up my eyes. I had a very good teacher. Also,
You mean like general history?
yeah, right. But you know, I learned both. But it was when I was learning general history that especially I happened to be fascinated by 19th and 20th century and the period between World War I and World War II. I just find it extremely interesting. Okay, Rabbi. His father was a very wealthy banker in Florence, Italy, with great respect for Talmidei Chachamim. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch was born in Rodi. Well, I don't know. He said his father comes from Italy. Is Rodi part of Italy? I don't know. I don't know. It might be close to like the Austrian border. You know, I'm really not sure. I have to look it up. And he became a great Galician. Oh, he's Galician, it says. Okay, so that's southwestern Poland, right? So it's the Austrian. It's close to that Austrian border. Because again, when the Pale settlement came into being, you know, last, let's say 20, 25 years of the 18th century, in the 1700s, a portion of it went to Austria. I know a major portion goes to the Russian Empire. Some of it goes to Prussia, Germany, but some also went to Austria, which becomes the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It wasn't officially called that, I don't believe, until 1862. But we always refer to that as Austria-Hungary. Yes.
Google says Brody is not part of Italy. It's a city located in western Ukraine.
Right. But I can't understand. Yeah. I find it's very confusing. So I honestly don't know.
Maybe the borders have shifted.
Yeah, over time. Whatever Ukraine is, well, now it's a separate country. But Ukraine was part of Poland.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah.
part of Poland.
Yeah.
It was Poland when he was born there.
Right. He was known as a child prodigy, obviously very brilliant, and he knew the entire Tanakh by heart. I always was jealous of those people who can't just get up and quote something. But you have to be really very bright, you know, a real scholar. He was known as a child. All right. His fame as a scholar became known far and wide. At an early age, he was appointed as the Rav of Zelkova and later served as the Rav of Kalish. I remember when I was in Central, 2 years above me was a girl whose last name was Kalish. So obviously, so now he came from there originally, you know, and then chose that to be his last name. I mean, even, you know, when the slaves were freed and they had to choose last names or they adopted the name of their former master or right. Yeah. There he was given great respect, but he eventually returned to Zelkova. Right. Tzvi Hirsch was known as an extremely diligent scholar. He was also fluent in many languages and was well versed in secular studies. So yes, an all around very knowledgeable individual. He even debated successfully with university professors. So he obviously was very eloquent, right? That he could stand up to scholars of that nature and have good debates with them. Yes. In
PhD.
1845, after passing a mandatory university exam required by Austrian law, he was awarded a PhD.
Wow.
Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch was a prolific writer. He's best known for his Mago Talmud, which is translated and I guess is available for a student's guide to the Talmud. So very concise, clear explanation of the Talmud, the major Rabbanim, who are listed. I mean, thank goodness to my teaching, Jewish history. So now, or even if I'm doing Daf Yomi, and they're referring to certain Rabbanim, well, I can place them. I know this is with the Mishnah, just from the Talmudic era. So I find that very exciting. Even if I don't remember exactly the exact stories, but I can place them in time. This was the first modern attempt on the part of Orthodoxy to formulate the nature, extent, and authority of tradition. So again, to show that, that oral law is like, so to speak, a direct descendant from the written law. It's bona fide. It dates back, again, when Moshe came down from Har Sinai, this is what he's teaching. He's teaching to Yehoshua and then the Canaan, the 7 years of Canaan, and then go out, among all the other Jewish people. So that obviously they have the basic text. The Torah was written down from the beginning. But to understand it, there is what we call the oral law, Torah Shebe'al Peh. And the reason is because that's how one learned until the Mishnah started being written down. You would just be in a room and people would discuss different things, but again, it was just all done orally. And this is the same type of tradition, like Native American, Indians. They had these oral traditions. Eventually, more into modern times, they started writing them down. But that was how one would transfer information from prior generations to the next generation. You would talk about it and elucidate it and you repeat it over and over. And then, but of course, you can also lose things that way. So that's why actually when the Mishnah came to be written down, because the Jews were being spread. This was after Rome had come in, taken over all of Israel, and then the Jews were dispersed throughout the known world. So that's why, again, we're not to make the decision. It's okay to write it down. In fact, it's important to write it down. Okay, so this is first step right here. Sorry, Robert V. Hirsch remained a staunch defender of Orthodox Judaism. You can see all these Rabbanim whose names were not being introduced to. They saw that as their major function. Again, because reform is spreading, Haskalah is spreading throughout Europe, and there was a fear, that many Jews are going to be sucked up with their ideology and start following their practices. And they want to show, no, but the Orthodox the way of life is the authentic Judaism. He manifested also strong opposition, which would be a result of this, to the innovations of the Haskalah and the Reform movement. Right. It's so interesting. Nowadays, the Reform movement they've moved more to the right. I asked Andrew once, because she goes to a Reform temple from general vicinity. She said they don't have an organ anymore. Which I found, because I used to be like a major part of Reform temples that or at least the one she goes to. She said they don't have the organ. And sometimes, I don't say all the congregants, but some might share talis or other. I mean, believe you me, they're not Torah observant Jews, but they are adopting some of the practices. In other words, they're proud of this heritage of theirs. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch was also a great Baal Chesed. I mean, it's interesting, like a prior law we learned also, right? And his home was always open to wayfarers and to all needy Jews. I remember many times, when Shalom would knock on our door, my mother would have them come in. She would always give them, they didn't sleep in our house, but, but they would. And also nowadays too, I'll have people knock on the door, not supposed to, whatever. Everything has to be done actually through the rabbi. But listen, there are people who still, and they'll sometimes ask me for some food, so, I always give them a bottle of water, I mean, I feel sorry for them schlepping around from place to place. He was also an outstanding prosaic, so he knew, interpretable law, right? As problems, issues came up in the community, and he wrote numerous responsa. His responsa had since been collected into a 3-volume work, and right, so he had a lot of questions coming to him, and he answered them. And his annotations on the Talmud appear in the what's the Ram? I don't know, edition of the Vilna Shah.
Rome is a particular, there are different places where they publish. Okay, so the mother and the sons were the family Rome, and they were the ones that pointed the earliest.
But the Gemara that we were using now, that's the Vilna Shah, right? Yeah, I guess that was considered what, a pure version of it? I'm not sure.
Sorry, it's just, the question is whether a certain text of the Gemara continued the existing earlier text.
Wow.
Before there were efforts to censor.
Yeah.
They were not the Gemara. Other texts, for example, a regular Shas now is either the Vilna Shas or the Lublin Shas. Okay, in Israel sometimes they use the Lublin edition.
Oh, interesting.
But in other cases, they could have used an earlier text of the Gemara.
Wow, so interesting. So I guess also you would have to compare and contrast if you wanted to get a fuller picture of, or certain things might be in one rendition, but not in another.
Malka, you said you would do Daf Yomi.
Yes.
You use the Koren edition?
No, I am doing art scrolls.
You use an art scroll.
Right. Well, that's thanks to my son because he's painted. So every month, I don't know, whatever, you usually get 2 at a time, the soft cover. The only thing is now I'm getting older, so it's a little small. I was at my son's home in Detroit. He happens to own it, but the hard cut version is much larger. It's like, wait, what am I at? The other one, like my eyes get blurry sometimes. You find that? I don't know.
I get the corn.
Oh, you
I
had
get
the
the
color.
soft one too, like.
Right,
Soft,
right.
jalapeno,
Right, but the reason, again, is more because my son argued by New Jersey, so, he's been paying it for me. I told him once, well, he had attended, the last SEAL, as my son from Detroit was there also, and some of my grandchildren. I said, I wanted to accept upon myself like another challenge, I mean, I'm learning math, and I was in a teaching Jewish history. I said, but I don't never really learned Gemara. A little bit, but not anything extensive. So I said, I'm going to, as I viewed it again as a challenge to myself, I'm going to do the Daf Yomi. But it's very difficult. And there's certain passages I find very hard to follow, or they make me angry. Very anti-women, but as I said, I'm plugging away, right? Every day I make sure that I do my Daf Yomi, and
The difference between what is the Ben Noah and the non-meaning.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to follow. I love it when they do the Agonic portion. And now I found out, people were like Rashi, where did he get his information? There it was, it's in the Gemara. It's trying to explain something that's in Tanakh, So I happen to love those sections the most. All right, Now let's go on to a chassid, became very well known. That's Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Rothenberg, the altar of Gur. And his dates 1799 to 1866. All these are born. You see, they're all living in that same time period. Rabbi Yitzchak Meir was one of the most illustrious Hasidic scholars and the founder of the Gerer Hasidic dynasty. So when we talked about the different dynasties, we have alluded to it. We talked about the Gerer Hasidim. He was born in West Galicia, Austria. Okay, when you think of Galicia, you have to think it's near the Austrian border, or it is what's partially today Austria. He was privileged to study under numerous rabbanim, and after the Kutzker Rebbe passed away, he assumed the mantle of leadership in this town of Gur, located near Warsaw. Okay, so now you know where this place is. He placed great emphasis upon three fundamental principles: Torah study, fear of God, and love of one's fellow Jew. Right? To always, not just have your head in a book, but be aware of what's going on, and the needs of others. He always emphasized the centrality of Torah and the need for constant self-improvement. Rabbi Yitzchak Meir was recognized as a great Torah scholar, even by the Misnagdim, right? Misnagdish Torah scholars. His primary works, I mentioned this when we were just talking in general about the Hasidic movements, was Kiddushei Harim, okay? Rim is from Yitzchak Meir, right? So these are the Kiddushim of the Rim, this is the Sefer, contain incisive comments on both the Shulchan Aruch and on various Talmudic topics. And he also wrote a Torah commentary by the same name. He felt that every moment has its fresh demand and hence the need for new thoughts, right? And that's why people keep on writing commentary, a fresh interpretation. Also, when you go through certain experiences, I mean, look, we do the Chumash every single week, right? We read the Parsha. Don't you? I know every time it's like something else, like pops up, and I understand something, more. And so we're using our knowledge of this life, right, to help us understand what happened in the past and whatever we study. So sometimes when I teach, I'll say, well, this one says this one says that. I say, but you choose which one resonates the most with you, because everybody has special insights. But again, through our own life experiences, a particular flourish, just makes more sense to us, and there's no way to say, oh, well, this is the right way, or that's the wrong way. I mean, they're all acceptable. Like Shimon Panim Torah, you can have 70 interpretations. One word, a letter sometimes, and they're all acceptable. But again, obviously, some will just make more sense to you. You'll be more comfortable with that particular interpretation. So go for it. Okay, he was married in 1811, and then he moved to Warsaw. Rabbi Yitzchak Meir fathered 13 children. But look, most of them died in infancy. Hey, never. Only 4 children lived to adulthood. And at his death, only one daughter remained alive. Isn't that awful? Yeah, that's terrible. I don't know if you know this about Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln had 4 sons, but only one survived her. Some died, in their childhood.
Antibiotics.
Yeah, right. They came down with diseases that today we wouldn't hear, or could be treated. Typhus, diphtheria, whatever. It's sad. Although I think about it, when my great grandmother, the one who had come to live in America in 1870, she had Penina Hara, 13 children, but 11 survived. So which is like amazing, I think. Yeah. I mean, who knows, they're dispersed all over. I probably relating a lot of Solomons and I don't even know who they are. Yeah, they were Polish Jews, and then my great grandfather came in 1871. They came in
Wow.
people, and then they married in America. And then my grandmother was born in the United States. Yeah.
Wow.
She was one of those 11 children who had survived. All right. Of course, she died at a young age. Can you imagine giving birth to 13 kids? So then my grandma, she was like 16 years old. She had to raise all the younger children because she was the eldest daughter. Spent 3 brothers are a little bit older than her. Life wasn't not easy. For people. All right, Robert Mayor's last name was originally Rothenberg, but after Polish uprising in November 1830, that was a year that saw lots of uprisings throughout Europe. He was forced to change his name to Alter. I'm not sure why, maybe to escape, and the authorities were somehow after him, Where I got this source didn't really elaborate, so I don't know. He was a true leader of his followers and became involved in all political events that affected his flock. Because he had to go and represent them before governmental authorities and plead on their behalf. So you can't be too, if you're a citizen ready, you can't be too shy. I mean, you are representing your community and you want to make sure that their rights, are protected. But as we've been learning, through the centuries, so many of the past, they did this. They were not afraid to speak up, to represent, their people. But they're also targeted as a result. Of course, some of them end up being thrown into jail. I see the time is up, and I always have to told them to go home because the car has to get the Century Grill. So I always have to. So next time we'll do Halberstam of Sans, which is also from the Fastidic dynasty of Sans. And we'll finish it up, and then we'll be able to do the next one, the one that says, if you don't have it, I have another sheet that I then prepared called 19th Century Tourist Masters Continued. In other words, I didn't want to give you like a mass thing of 10 pages, so I sort of divided it in half. Okay, may you all be well. The flu I know is going around a lot. People in Century Village are so far pretty healthy. All right, cool. My daughter in York got it. The flu. Well, she went to one of those urgent care places. I guess they take a sample or something. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
I honestly don't know. Did you all get your, my flu shot? Well, the doctors all recommend it. It's the only one gets. And it's free because it can then lead to other problems if you. We have to take care of ourselves. All right. With that. Okay, well, so be well, everybody, miss it. Next. All right. Hey, we're moving on. We're coming to the close to the end of January. We got time to, advances so rapidly.
My son has a book. After they finish with this, yeah.
You give us the aluminum there.
Thank you for the
But everybody.
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry. Thank you for considering it.
My husband is.
Mashiach at Smash It. Next year, we're lucky.
Yes, I know.
17 years old.
Okay, right.
Something to do, something on Sunday.
Very nice. Oh, she's very good. My husband's a really good idea. Really nice.
Never got him yet?
Yeah.
It's always right up on the list.
Bye, thank
Every
you.
Wednesday between
Right, but he's
12:15 and
not,
1:15.
he's there with the Sundays, Tuesdays.
Yeah,
and
but
Oh,
Thursdays.
the oranges
Wednesday we go to the
that was-
Sunday.
Right.
Let's see, now, but
I mean, every once in a while, I like to be the cover for something, yeah, maybe.
let's go to one day.
Bye, yeah, yeah.
All right.